welcome guys to another episode of Soul Intent Podcast, the show that's for us, by us. I'm Coco Mell, and this is my lovely co-host Joelah Noble, back at it again. We're also joined by a special guest, those who obviously have the visual of this, the lovely Mr. Kojey Radical.
Wagwan. How are you?
Yeah. I'm all good. So for those who don't know, Kojey is a super talented rapper, storyteller, visual artist, and so much more. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and you know, being a part of the conversation.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. And then alongside us hitting on some important topics for this week, we're going to discuss our favourite segment, which is Cuss-A-Crep, Joellah's baby. And then to round off as well things, we're going to do shout out of the week as well as some positivity to lighten the mood also. So yeah, might as well get stuck in. So obviously there's been a lot of talks this week, even last week even, on social media about the relationship between black men and black women. And I suppose the narrative that black women show up and show out for our black men, and sometimes, you know, we don't get kind of that same love reciprocated. But do you guys think this is the case, or have you seen anything different, you know, whether in the media or I suppose or in real life that you can touch on?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue when the stats are there. It was interesting because the spike in black conversation on the TL took me by surprise. Because I don't know, I've pretty much spent my whole discography talking about black struggle, black issues within a multiple different kind of array of subjects, whether it is just kind of like race relations, but even with internally looking at how we look at sexuality and treat each other in that way. So I kind of took a little bit of a social media break, almost to kind of figure out what I can do in real life to start implementing some of these changes that people want to see. And I come back on the timeline. God rest their soul. I saw Toyin had passed away. And I felt like that was the next catalyst for the next conversation, in which it was much more about the lack of presence and support and help that she would have needed by black men, that she so avidly showed to the black men in her life, and probably that incidentally she ended up fighting for rights that I might benefit from, and she doesn't know me. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be black men that she knows. It's just black men. And I think it was so clear to see how much people didn't show up for her. I think that the whole conversation is really technical because naturally you want to listen to it all. Do you know what I mean? Like you want to hear everything, how it's meant to be heard, and empathize with it. I think there's a big lack of listening, not really listening to each other. I think everyone sees their point as more valid.
No, what you're saying right there is super valid. I think it's a super lack of listening. I think it's really rooted in a lack of respect as well for the black woman. I feel like I hate to always bring like slavery into it, because not all of our ancestors have been enslaved, right? But a lot of our ancestors were from countries that have been colonized as well, and so we're not, you know, away from exactly from the issues. Black women have been consistently hypersexualized throughout history. You know, when Europeans, even before the slavery era started, when Europeans went to Africa, they saw that black women didn't have much clothes on because it's hot. You know, compared to the European women, they had loads of clothes on because it's cold. They saw that some tribes engaged in polygamy, the tribal dances as well that women would be doing that they would consider sexually suggestive. And I think whilst, you know, that's nice sometimes to be someone so sexual and to be comfortable in your own sexuality, to just be minimized as just a sexual being is unacceptable. And I do think that's kind of where it begins for us as black men and black women.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think I always try and, like, for any discussion, I think it's important to bring forward opposing views, even if they might not reflect mine. Disclaimer.
All right, I see where you're going with this. Let's go.
Do you know what I mean? Opposing views. Everything you're saying about the sexualization of the black woman is completely true. And I think a lot of that comes from this idea that European or the Western world was to come over and make a culture that was uncivilized civilized. Essentially, all that means is to make it like their own. But in the process of that, they saw people as property. If you break it down to like a utilitarian kind of frame of mind, the men in their physicality are designed to work, lift, build, pick. Do you know what I mean? Boom, boom, boom. A lot of the time, historically, even prior to slavery, even if you go back to some of the teachings that you can find in early religious pieces of writing, the role of the woman has always been to nurture, to give birth. I mean, it's like all around this idea of submission. So when you go back to this idea of property, and you now say, okay, well, if I've got this, if I own this man and I can make him go work for me, now I own this woman, what can I make her do for me? And a lot of that is deterred by the male gaze and simplified by the male gaze, limiting what that woman is seen as to her sexual properties, even if that includes birthing children, with the amount of like, I hate the R word, but with the amount of black women that were raped during the time, you know what I mean? And then forced to kind of give birth to mixed race babies as a way of creating a divide within black communities themselves. But it's interesting because obviously that is history. Again, opposing views, not my own. No, seriously.
Are you going with this?
Disclaimer. No, because I know what the quotation game is like in the world, in the universe. You know what I'm saying? It's a disclaimer. But I think in a world where confidence is promoted by owning one's sense of sexuality, more women portray themselves sexually. So to limit the problem to men solely seeing women as sexual objects isn't quite as simple, because I think the basis, the quick answer to that is, well, we should go back to a more modest society where women cover up and do this and do that, which no, we shouldn't, because no one should have to do anything because of another sex, do you know what I mean, or another set of gays. If anything, the gays should alter. It should become more comfortable with it. It shouldn't be as oppressive in its nature to control. A lot of it is nurturing. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of even the culture comes from the idea of nurturing. So I think over the time, we've gotten used to the idea of, no matter what, that black woman is going to stand up for me. Or if she doesn't, she's a problem. She's an issue, or she's counterproductive to what I'm trying to achieve within this moment. I think that's never been corrected through society. In every culture, you can look at and see where misogyny has been allowed to take over to a point where it's normalized. And we treat anything other as this special clap, you can tie your shoelaces. But really, having respect and treating women with respect should just be basic and shouldn't be applauded, but it has to, because it doesn't exist. We've allowed misogyny to kind of rule for too long. So I think it's more to do with misogyny rather than as a wider system, as opposed to just the sexualization of women. Because if women want to have sex, they can.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I agree with you. I don't think it's just sexualization. I think it's definitely a wider issue than just that. But I definitely think that that's part of it. And there's so many different parts of it. What do you think, Coco?
I think just like kind of, I suppose, looking back kind of, you know, the history of a black woman, I feel like we're kind of constantly being boxed, or we're being kind of like, I suppose, we're in the shadows. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're normally, in most cases, like the first people to do things, but we never get the credit that's owed to us, because the white man, the white woman, or even some cases the black man will come and will kind of like put their stamp on it, will take our hard work and kind of like, I suppose, alter it to suit themselves. So I just kind of feel like, you know, over history that we've kind of, I don't know, as Kojey said, to Kojey's point, we're there, we're always gonna be the protectors and the providers and the nurturers, but like, who's doing that for us? Who's protecting and nurturing us? I feel like, because we have such like a mothering nature, very maternal kind of, you know, I'll care for you. You know, you look at all those films like Gone with the Wind and The Help. We're always the people that are raising the kids, even the kids that aren't ours. Like, we love everyone, no matter what color, creed, race, orientation, or whatever. We've got you, we'll hold you down. And then when it comes to us getting that in return, it's not really reciprocated. And I don't know why that is, or is it down to the whole, you know, kind of hypersexualization where we're just seen as a body rather than individuals with a mind of our own? Do you know what I mean? It's like our bodies are kind of tainted because we have it exposed maybe more than other ethnicities might. It doesn't mean that, but I think it's kind of, we've just kind of, society just put this label on us that we seem to just have, where we've got you no matter what. And I just don't think it's necessarily a weight that we should carry as Black females. I don't think it's fair. I think let's even the plateau, let's all carry that weight and that burden, rather than just being us and solely us.
I totally agree with you. I think you mentioned Gone with the Wind, The Help. I mean, I don't even think I've ever seen Gone with the Wind.
Well, it's now it's banned anyway now, so
well, that's been Gone with the Wind.
They banned it because they said that in terms of like, you know, racially, it doesn't depict the Black women in the fairest light, or even like the honest truth. So they've got rid of it because it's very much, you know, us as a lower class coming out of slavery.
Were they like romanticizing it as well?
Yeah, to a degree. Like, you had the Black maid who obviously was just a nanny, and then you had the Black butler, and it was just very kind of derogatory to the, you know, to the Black kind of community. So they've gotten rid of it. Yeah.
Well, I feel like with The Help as well, they've kind of romanticized it in a way as well, where, you know, these Black women have these nurturing relationships with the white women. And when you say that we've been there for other people's kids and all of that stuff, that wasn't by choice, you know. We were forced to do that. We were forced to feed the little white baby using our own breast milk. We were forced to bear children and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's definitely deeper than everything that we've mentioned just now. And I know that we're not going to be able to cover it.
Yeah, no, I hope it's not an oversimplification, but I think it's a lot of it would stem from the idea of people seeing people as property. After effects of a time of slavery is a lot of what it does to the psyche. When you've had nothing, the moment you have a chance to own anything, you want it all. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think in that transferal of freedom or power, or at least choice back into the Black hands, the Black male may have seen himself as now the new leader, the new owner of property. Yeah. So instead of it being a transferal in a sense where it's like everybody gets their freedom, I hope this isn't an oversimplification. It's like the Black man got his freedom, and in the process of him getting his freedom, he got the Black woman as property. And over time, rights had to be fought for tooth and nail in order for the Black woman to be seen as anything other. Systematically, in terms of laws and things like that, a lot of them systems don't exist anymore, in terms of like Black women not being able to vote and et cetera, et cetera. The mentality hasn't completely disappeared, and it still exists. And I think, and the toughest part is like almost accepting that there's a generation that might already be written off.
Yeah, which is definitely true.
Yeah.
Joe and I were discussing like your music, and obviously I know Same Boat, which you just recently released, but also 23 Winters going back a couple of years. You obviously deconstructed the politics of Black identity and race. You touched obviously on the sexuality and love part of it. So like, what were you seeing back then or experiencing that made it like the best time to release this sort of content touching on those kind of like subject matters? What made you kind of do it then and now even?
Yeah, I think with my music, I've always understood that I'm going to be speaking about my own experience, and my own experience is going to be the Black experience. And I think I've always, Chimamanda actually has a dope TED talk about the dangers of a singular story. So when you're only like, if you only hear about something from one perspective, you believe that to be the total and only truth. And I think there's a lot more complexities to growing up a young Black boy outside of just not wanting to fall into a gang or to get me or do this. There's a lot more to it. And I think one of the things I've always been thankful for in terms of my family was that even if people had opinions, there wasn't much that wasn't normal. If it existed, it can be normal. So growing up, I saw so many different types of people come in and out of my life, my house, my sister's lives. You get me? Because I was young. I was the youngest by 10 years. So I'm a kid watching it from this perspective of everything in the world is new. So I understand it as it was taught to me. If it was taught to me as a problem, I'm probably going to see it as a problem.
Yeah.
If it's not taught to me as a problem, I'm just going to see it. And nothing was taught to me as a direct problem. People had opinions, but I could recognize them as opinions. And my dad used to say crazy things like, if a guy has his ear pierced, then it's the first sign of insanity and things like that. And like, I don't have my ears pierced. So maybe that's why. Do you get me? Like, I don't know. I grew up thinking, nah, I don't want my ears pierced. And maybe when I think about it, it's like, because he said that to me. You know what I'm saying? So let's say if I grew up around people that were telling me gay is wrong, do you get me? And lesbians are evil, and we need to kill all trans people, and and that was normalized, I believe it. You wouldn't be able to shake it. And I could see it in other young black brothers around me when I'm talking to them about certain things. And they can't shake it because they know that to be right and the other to be wrong. And that's it. For me, especially in the music side of it, I felt like I wanted to kind of create this narrative that spoke to the black experience from a young boy growing up, that wasn't limited to just talking about kind of violence or being lesser than. Do you know what I mean? And that comes from exploring all perspectives, but not in a way that's like, I am you, I understand what you're going through, because I don't. But I think music can exist in so many different spaces. And I feel like a lot of what people are looking for is safety. You know what I mean? The ability to exist safely around a certain thing, whether it's a movement, a art piece, a song, a film, the media, the street, the club, whatever. They want to exist safely. They want to be able to hear music that they enjoy, that doesn't tear them down. And it doesn't have to be the subject matter. I don't have to gloat in the music and be like, yeah, listen to me, I'm not tearing you down. Like, no, it's rap about what I rap about, because I'm not trying to come for no one. Do you get me? Like, I have no ill will in my music, and my music's going to be reflected forever, even long past me. So when we did, like, for example, 700 Pennies was the one that we explored sexuality in the black community. And at the time, I had written a record, about a completely heterosexual relationship that was long distance. And every time I listened to the song back or played it to somebody, they imagined their own experience of love. It wasn't mine. Do you know what I mean? They wasn't going, oh, I see what you mean, Kojey. They were saying, I see what I mean. They're seeing themselves in my song. So with that, when it comes to love, I felt like love is so open that it needs to be reflected in a way that isn't exploitative. Do you know what I mean? That isn't like, clap for me, I've got all of these people in my video. It's more just like, if you need an example, it's there. Do you know what I mean? Go look at it. For me, the idea of what is masculine isn't defined by anything other than how you choose to live your life.
Yes.
You get it?
You.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I
like,
appreciate that perspective, because we need more of that, but please.
Yeah, that's literally what you choose to do in your day-to-day life is it. That is your definition of masculinity. Doesn't mean the other person's is wrong. It's just theirs. And if you're not into their business, stay out of it. So when we did the 700 Pennies video, I think it was interesting because I hit a block where it went as far as it went, but it didn't necessarily reach the LGBTQ plus. Don't want to get it wrong. It didn't necessarily reach them. And I realized it didn't necessarily reach them because outside of that visual, outside of that one moment and that one message, I didn't go out of my way to stand up for them every other day of the week. I was happy to be passive to their suffering as long as it didn't affect me. So to now put it on a stage isn't necessarily enough. And I think that was a very humbling experience for me. So when this whole kind of like social media change now, where it's like, it's not enough to be racist, it's got to be anti-racist. Like I get it. I get it. because you can support anything verbally. I can say I support black women all day long. Do you get me? But until I do some things that support black women, I'm probably just saying it. So, like, I think it's more about what you do. So, taking the risks and even trying different messages to kind of bring them awareness and bring the conversation comes with its lessons also.
Was that kind of like the inspiration behind your tune Same Boat, which was kind of like, you know, a love letter to your mum, you know, and also your what you put on Instagram the other day as well, where, you know, you showed old pictures.
Yeah.
And you spoke about black women and, you know, your support for black women and what black women have done just in society, but also for you.
Yeah, I mean, with records like Same Boat, I can write them in one frame of mind. Because really, my mum's my rock, innit, really? So, like, subconsciously, I rap about her anyway. Do you know what I mean? Every other line, like, I've got bare tunes where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give this to my mum and that to my mum. Like, really, like, even like, in a primal sense, like, you go out and you bring stuff back to the pride, to the pack.
Yeah.
You feel me? And normally, like, the lionesses hold it down. But I think it's also a time of reflection. And I think even the comfortability of existing with the perspective that I have and the life that I've managed to live as a result of that perspective, I have to kind of give it up and give thanks to it. Like, there's things happening in my life that are like allowing me to appreciate the black women in my life a lot more. There's a lot I've learned now, which is dope, which is why I'm happy I haven't made an album yet. And now I can make an album.
You got loads of content from just quarantine situation, I'm sure.
Yeah. Being in this space where it's like, okay, you got time to figure it out, bro. You just go, whoa, life is really real.
It's a real thing. And
there's a real life out there.
Like, all of this stuff, like, everything you see on the news, like movies, all of that stuff, like, it really is distraction. There's a whole spiritual side that a lot of us we're not even aware of. We don't even think about it because we're so busy trying to chase the bag.
When I went to Ghana and when I went to South Africa, I think it really changed my perspective on what I see richness as and what I liken richness to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think going to places like South Africa and Ghana and seeing different classes of black people and that being the majority made me say I need to stop saying richness is a white thing. Richness is just a rich thing. It's just the hierarchy of the system that we now live in. I think we're gonna see an age where more black women are gonna rise to positions of power, and the balance is gonna change. And then this is just my hot take. This is just my little whoop.
Hit us.
The balance is gonna change. Then that's gonna be the new problem. Black women are going to rise to more positions of power, and black men are going to feel slighted, and it's going to be hilarious.
I kind of feel like we're already taking back those reins. Like, I feel like statistically, I think from a business point of view, I think it's like 38% of like striving businesses were founded by black women. And I think that's just more so because if we can't see representation in those boardrooms and in those kind of, you know, workplaces, we're creating our own lane to allow us to really have, you know, the autonomy that we deserve to have.
But, you know, you guys talk about women starting their own businesses, and that's all great, and I see that happening, and that isn't surprising to me at all. But I still feel that we need some unity between our men and women. I don't feel that women starting businesses is gonna automatically create unity between us as a people. Do you understand? Even recently, with all the madnesses that's been happening on social media, with a lot of people coming out about sexual abuse.
That conversation's crazy.
It's a mad thing.
That matters.
It's just highlighted the disrespect for me. That, you know, people would say certain things, show certain things, and then be met with, oh, why didn't she say that earlier? Or why did she have
I
to
mean,
expose it to everyone? It's like, but this is what really
apology.
happened.
It's tough. I know it's sad that I know a lot of the girls that spoke up personally.
Yeah.
And I gave them a call to kind of learn more. One of them was more of a sexual assault kind of situation. The other one was a direct allegation of rape. And I think what I noticed in both of them is that the girls made attempts to lament their feelings towards the perpetrator. And it was met with defensiveness. And I was sitting there racking my brain, going, why were they defensive? Is it truly because they didn't give a fuck about the situation? Or is it because they did not see their action at the time as wrong? They only see the hurt as wrong. Do you get it? Even myself, though, looking at all of those stories and thinking, okay, well, why was it met with defensiveness and blah, 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 blah? I think to myself, have I been complicit in any of the things that have been spoken about? And what's crazy, is I absolutely thought, no. Me, not possible. Me, nah. Not, could never, would never. Me, upstanding gentleman, never. Gah. And right as I built up that overconfidence, do you know what I mean? Right as I built up that, like, yeah, I'm on, no one can get me, I ain't done nothing. I get a message sent through from a person I dealt with many years, like probably about 6, 7 years ago. And we saw each other for like a brief period of time. But she hit me up and she asked me, do I remember the first time we was intimate? And I said, nah, if I'm being honest, I don't remember. And then she further explained that she had read a story in the process of everybody talking about sexual this and sexual that. And in that story, it's about another person of interest being in a sexual situation with a girl, saying he was going to do one thing, like, oh, I'm just going to go down on you. And before it being like, okay, yeah, now we're going to go to actual intercourse, it's just happening. And she said that situation reminded her of the first time me and her were intimate. And she said that she didn't think it was wrong or didn't understand it to be wrong before, but she's had a lot of time to think about it, and she does now. And it literally, it took me by surprise. It hit me like a ton of bricks because I was like, I would never want anything that I've done to make anybody feel like they're living with any kind of trauma whatsoever. But also, because in the same moment that you would have discovered that it was wrong, do you get me? You thought about this over a longer period of time, didn't know or didn't feel like it was wrong before, but now understand it to be wrong. I am finding out 5-10 minutes after you that was wrong. Do you get me? So my initial reaction was to apologize for, again, any hurt caused, but I said that I couldn't give a total apology yet because I haven't had any time to think about the situation or understand it from a different perspective. And it kind of led me, I started speaking to my boys and I was like, okay, so like, what's this? That's get me, like, what is this? And their first reactions were defensiveness. Yeah, you know, Coco, like, yeah, straight away, like, what? Are you mad? What? 10 years later, what? You know, if you do a crime and they don't catch you, you ain't got no crimes no more, cause like just crazy things like that, and I'm like, yeah. I'm hearing it, and then I stop hearing it because I say to myself, wow, we've all. This isn't a male thing. Guilty. We've all been taught wrong. We've been like, everyone's so afraid of sexualizing children so much that they save the majority of the information
to the time where you can tell them they can go and do everything that you just told them. Do you get me? And I remember sexual education in my history of it was very brief. I got taught how to put a condom on a banana, and that was it.
I didn't even get taught how to do that, to be honest.
Yeah. I didn't do it. The teacher did it, and we just watched her do it.
And we watched it happen.
No airs in the top, and then whatever, and that was
Pinch
it.
the top, roll it down.
Same
Fling that
I was
banana
really
back.
looking forward to that lesson. Like, I really wanted to learn how to do it.
And I promise you, it probably came up, and it was heavily debated, and it was probably outvoted of actually being given to you. Because I reckon there was a because it wasn't, when we got to it, it wasn't part, like, our teacher didn't tell us. They called in an expert.
Oh, an external sex.
An external, you get me? Yeah. So that means the school's going to have to pay for that external teaching for somebody that feels comfortable enough to come and teach kids about sexuality. Most schools aren't going to fork out for that. They're not. They're just going to be like, teach them the biology of it, and then that's it. If you look at TV, the way that kids go about losing their virginity, even in sitcoms and all that kind of stuff, is this clumsy fumble where you try and then you try again. Do you get me? Like, and it's not like, do you get me? It's almost like coercion. Coercion was taught as a technique and not an issue until 2020.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? So with that, it's been normalized and normalized and normalized and normalized until the sheet's been pulled away. Do you get me? Like, the wool is no longer in front of the eyes and we can see the world for what it is. So all of these issues that come up, even going back to the original conversation of like this divide between black men and black women. Sorry to bring the conversation into a morbid place, but a lot of young black women can account for family members introducing them to sex and sexual conduct. And for the pride of the family are forced to swallow that secret. Yeah. And then go into life and have to navigate sexual relationships with complete strangers. Do you get me? So like, it's a dangerous territory for anyone that's been miseducated to step into a world and now have to act like a professional. For me, it was a very humbling moment because it was like, I'm still learning about the wrong in that situation. Because I feel like instantly, even though again, I feel like I've lived a pretty clean life in terms of sexual conduct. You get me? I've done my thing. I've lived my life. I've done it well. I've got the t-shirts. I've done all of that. But I feel like I've done it good. I've done it, like, do you get me? I've done it as good as I can. I've been a fuckboy here and there. Do you get me? Like I'll accept all fuckboy allegations with my hands in the air, but I did that shit. Do you feel me? But I feel like in terms of like the serious stuff, it's clean. But in that particular moment, I go, do you know what? I might never know. I might never, ever, ever in my life know if every single sexual interaction I had with a female was positive to both of our futures mentally. Because if in that moment it was accepted, I've normalized it. And if in that moment it was accepted and she's normalized and it comes out later in the trauma, that is a bigger wound to fix than it was in the moment. So there's a lot of detail.
I agree with you, and it comes down to education on both parts. Like, when you first said that story, Kojey, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking, I was like, your man them. Like, hold on. Yeah. 10 years later. And if it's something that if she didn't feel wrong in that moment, then I don't understand why that is something that's wrong. But at the same time, I've also been in a situation that's probably similar to that as well, where probably didn't want to do certain things, but then, you know, certain other things happen and you feel like you've been coerced into it. So it's not necessarily you don't want to do it, just maybe you didn't want to do it at that point or just, you know, just then. So I think it's about having the conversation with your kids, teaching your girls and your boys, like, to voice really how they feel, what they want and what they don't want very, very clearly.
A big part of the reason why she probably came straight to me was was because hopefully out of a respect for the conversation, so that the conversation can happen between me and her. B, because coming out is scary and your perspective might not always be understood. So in that, you now kind of open it up for everyone to have polarizing opinions on whatever. But if you're dealing with the hurt, it's your hurt. And I think, and people are going to come to grips and deal with it in their own time. We were both young, to get me at the time. So these are our beginning experiences. These are the ones that we carry into adulthood. Do you get me? So if in the moment she didn't like that and she didn't say, but then now goes, all right, well, guys might do that. More guys might do it, and it might just create this bigger issue where it's like, now we don't even need consent. We just need to not hear no.
Yeah.
And we're fine. And that's the issue, I think, is for a lot of dudes, they're looking for this big, get off me, nah, moment. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, now you're a rapist. Do you get me? Where it's like, sometimes it's like not as friggin' simple as that. Do you get me? And like, and we're experiencing the same thing with the conversation around race. A lot of white people felt like they were completely exalted of all racist crimes because they have never owned slaves. Until you explain to them the microaggressions. A lot of young men are taught the microaggressions of sexual assault or misconduct, etc., etc. They get to a workplace, they're doing the most. They're in a school, it's getting a slap on the wrist. Do you get me? And all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's mental. Like, it's so tough because it all depends on how you was taught in your household. I was fortunate enough to grow up predominantly around women. So I'm almost forced to see their perspective because it was the best way to just stay out of trouble.
That's right.
So in terms of, I suppose, like, you know, this, like the whole saga around, I suppose, you know, black men protecting black women, like, where do we see it moving forward, you know, months and years to come? Like, how, you know, what does that look like for us, do you think?
I think for a society to exist, there has to be some level of agreed rational thought that we live by. These are our laws, these are our morals, these are our values. In a world of democracy, these things almost have to be debated to the point where people can see no other choice in understanding what is right and what is wrong. In order to do that, more conversations need to happen in a way that isn't defensive, because I feel like defensiveness is the trigger for a lot of the outcry. Do you get me? Like, someone saying, no, not me, not possible, not capable, is when they go, okay, well, your time's up. I'm going to show you you're capable.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Whereas, like, if it was a space where it's like, young men knew not to be instantly defensive, but more inquisitive to their disagreements. Ask questions on what you don't understand if you can understand the rest. Do you know what I mean? If in that moment, there was something that was very clear that you didn't see, it needs to be pointed out to you. Because at this point, where it wasn't given to us as children immediately, we're gonna have to learn on the job. Do you get me? And like sadly, a part of that is vilifying certain people. Even though cancel culture is complete and utter bollocks. Everything I didn't understand, I understand now because I listened. And I'm sure if conversation was more open and perspectives could be shared, more reasonable conclusions could be met that could help the next generation. Sadly, again, it's not to say that we're all written off. There's some, the same way the police say it's just a couple bad apples. Just a couple bad apples. Do you get it? But bad apples is enough. The tree is spoiled.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think it's about respecting everyone's space, going both sides. If someone says, you know, I don't want to be close to you, or, you know, I don't want you to touch me or whatever, respect that. But on a deeper level, I think it's exactly what you just said, Kojey. And also being open to finding out more about yourself and being open to being more self-aware. I think a lot of people just aren't self-aware, and they don't want to hear bad things about themselves or any kind of critiques, because it makes you feel shit. Let's face it, like, growth doesn't actually make you feel good. You start thinking like, wow, I'm actually a shit person, or I've done some shit things in my life. But we just have to be willing to do that.
I've done some terrible things. I existed in 2013 and I had a BlackBerry. I've said some atrocious things in my life.
I think accountability is going to be instrumental in ensuring change, you know, holding, you know, I suppose people that have done wrong up to standard, whether that's from, you know, law point of view. Do you mean whether it goes down the whole R. Kelly route where you have to take his ass to trial and to court, then so be it. But I mean, like, that's a perfect example of, you know, a black man not protecting black women at its utmost. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely at its fucking prime. He's a prime example of what that looks like.
I by no means stand by R. Kelly for any of these heinous crimes. One of his excuses, again, I do not stand by R. Kelly. I'm presenting an example of what he said. He said that he was molested very young.
Sister.
And his mum knew, or something like that. Something like that. What about those examples? And I feel like that's such a terrible question to raise, because it sounds like, what about black on black crime? No, I'm not saying that. But like on a deeper root, where do things like that come from? Fuck R. Kelly, just that as an example, because that exists as well.
You actually raise a very valid point right there. A lot of the men who do engage in those kind of activities and sexually abuse or rape other women, a lot of them have been molested. A lot of us in the black community have been molested as children or whatever. I know a few people, you know, who have been through that. So that's definitely going to have an impact on your mental. But then I think that goes back to what Coco was saying about accountability as well. Just because you've been through that doesn't mean it's okay to do that. But at the same time, it means that that's the kind of, that's what you've learned, right? That's the kind of behavior that you've learned. And through your trauma, you've then gone and repeated that kind of abuse. But again, it's not okay. But it's about being open and honest about these things. And within the black community, we have so much of this that we keep quiet because it's embarrassing. That then brings it back to, all right, you're protecting this man or woman, you're protecting them, and then the other person is a victim. And they feel unworthy now because of that. And they shouldn't, they should be supported.
No, definitely.
But still fucking. So you know the ones. I just wanted to throw that one in there just to spice up the pot.
Oh, listen, you spiced it, all right. No, definitely. But I just think even the example of, obviously, you know, his mum knew low key and didn't address it. Like, I just feel like, again, like what Joelah was saying, that boils down to culturally bringing shame on the family. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like it matters whether you're West Indian or African. It's the same ethos that our family have. Do you mean, like, don't bring no trouble to my door, and, you know, kind of keep it under wraps, and don't let the outside world know that our family isn't this 2.0 kind of like the flipping, like the Crosbys. Perfect. Another example where it looks all good and from the outside, white picket fence and shit, and then actually dig under that freaking that turf, and it's a whole piece of madness. So I just feel like, society has always kept us quiet. So I feel like the black woman knows her place, and mostly it's keep your mouth quiet and look pretty, look cute, and just smile, and it will be all right. I think that's kind of the mentality I think the older generation would have had back then, to don't say nothing. Do you know what I mean, kind of thing. And like saying nothing is safe. What's safe.
Well, that's heavy. Is there anything else on that subject, or are we moving on to peace or positivity?
There was one point where I was looking, I was like, should we touch on it, should we not? And it was the why is necessarily the lighter skin tones a preference with so many black men versus, you know, the rich melanin of darker women.
Well, that one's easy.
Oh, we got an easy one, have we?
I think
it's easy. There's two ways to look at it. You can go off modern media and representation, or you can go back further on a historical sense and kind of unpick that. I think historically, from what I understand from my reading, the darker skin tone initially was
more favored and respected, it was seen as more privileged or important until the influence of the Western world. In which case the perspective changed, and even the idea of lighter skinned toned people was the idea of being more appeasing to the oppressor. Do you know what I mean? You're more like them, so you're going to be more favored. I am less like them, so I'm going to be less favored. And I think that mentality kind of trickled down into everything. And so many different cultures experience the same. You can ask South Asian women from like India or Bangladesh, and they'll tell you that the lighter skinned Asian women are more favored than the darker skin toned Asian women. You can go to like China or Korea, and they'll tell you that the darker skinned woman is less favored than the paler woman. You could go to Brazil and look at the murder rate, and look at who it tips towards.
Yeah, the scales.
And you can get me, and you understand that same mentality is trickled down to a point where people can die over, lose their life over, and all that kind of stuff. And if you think, okay, if your mentality now sees yourself as the prey, you're gonna do your best to look appeasing in a way where it's like, don't hurt me, to the oppressor. In terms of like preference for like women, for example, I think for a lot of darker dudes, their reasoning behind it, and this is just to nullify the argument, it's not a reason to put a stamp on it and be like, yeah, this is okay, but it's more like they don't want to be reminded of the negatives of themselves. If you have been abused or made to feel lesser than for your features, primarily your darker skin tone, and you think, well, what I've been taught from young is that my main priority in existing is to procreate. And I have a choice now. I have a choice in the idea of what I can now bring into the world. My deeper fears, disclaimer, not mine, spice and pot, my deeper fears will now tell me I don't want my child to go through what I went through. Being darker skin tone, having these features, so I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go for this, I'm going to go for that. That's just scientific. This is not me going off, oh yeah, them are just prettier. I'm going off the fear behind of like, why does it hurt so much to stand up for your own? Where if you're looking at yourself and you've only felt the traumas of how people see you, and then you're taught to understand your woman as a reflection of you. Do you get me? So if people are seeing all of these negative things about you, you almost want a distraction. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many like young African guys that will consider themselves, like, even though their swagger says, yeah, I'm handsome and they'll break down their features as lesser than attractive. But to counter, like, to make up for that, they'll try find themselves a nice
trophy woman.
From another race, another skin tone, another as a way of validating the fact that, like, yeah, I might be ugly, but look what I can get. And in the eyes of the oppressor, in the eyes of everybody that's gonna hold me down, this is the model one. This is the one I want. This is the Rari. Do you get me? Like this is what I've been taught is the Rari. Do you get it? Like, so like, and that's hammered in from early to a point where then it becomes banter. Then it becomes like light skin versus dark skin, which again was a plot, it was a tool.
Exactly. To divide us, sir.
To divide us internally. Because then outside of them just going, okay, cool, black man just want light skinned girl and white women, you go, all right, well, if we're doing the colorism within ourselves, then now we say, because of your genetic influence by the Western world, your black experience is lesser than my black experience, which tips it. Do you get me? And then now, and brings the sides further apart, which is like, it's all mad. Which is why I say it's easy, because it's not easy. It's like, it's not even just to say, oh, it's just about the woman. It's everything they're not. It's the background psychology behind it is like, these things are better than me.
Yeah.
Do you get me? So
Yeah.
What you're saying right now are the guys who would say like, oh, my preference is a white girl, or my preference is a light-skinned girl. That's, to me, what you're explaining right there. Like, whiteness is a symbol of greatness for them. And so they're going to go towards that more than they would towards their own people.
A lot of what is suited to preference comes down to quite harmful stereotypes. You get me? So if we're not going off race, if you ask the same brother and he says, bro, I like I'm blind, legally blind, I don't see color. Say, cool. So what is it about Spanish women that you like? Yeah, man, the men are just feisty. And it's like, well, I'm sure, like, do you get me? Like, they're not all feisty. Do you get me? Like, why do you liken them to feistiness? Yes. And why is feistiness okay for Spanish girls, but if the same black woman is feisty,
thank you.
She's sassy.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
that's not a trait you like anymore.
Yeah.
It's because the way that that you're taught to see both tones of attitude is one is a positive and one is a reason why that is negative. And again, on the psychological thing, is that all they give you is reasons why these personality traits that commonly exist within black women are the negative.
Or lesser than.
You get it? Or the lesser than. So it's just, it all goes back to it being deeper than rap, and it's like a deeper psychology that's more closer to like indoctrination than simple preference. Yeah.
Brainwashing.
I suppose going obviously to your point, Kojey, about like having like a trophy girl, it's like that trophy or that girl is seen as riches. Do you know what I mean? So not even just materialistic things, having like a lighter skinned woman on your arm, it in society, it kind of like ranks you a bit higher than if you came in with a darker skinned woman. Do you know what I mean? Because your white counterpart's going to be like, friggin' hell, Jerome, she's a sort. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, like, well done. No, you know what I mean? It's going to be a Jerome or a freaking Winston or whatever. Well, mate, she's a bit of a piece. They're not going to, your black women, they're not going to be like, oh, she's lovely. They're going to be just, oh, she's whatever. They're not going to look at her exterior as a positive. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be like, oh, she's got a really nice personality. Or, oh, she can really cook well. It's those values like that aren't seen versus the lighter skin women, which might be a bit more kind of, you know, said like, you know, I suppose society's influence it from being a bit more of a better preference versus a dark skin.
The westernized ideal of what beauty is. Yeah, that's just what it is. Yeah. That they're going along.
I'm a bit of an idealist in a sense where I still believe love is love, and if you fall in for someone because you've fallen for them, and you genuinely don't see race as even a conversation within your relationship, then that's your relationship and you're entitled to have it. If black women are saying, we feel as though in the conversation of black men don't stand up for us, we're saying we don't even feel appealing to you on a base level. Do you see what I'm saying? Even if all you do is sexualize us, we don't even feel the root of that attraction to be genuine. We feel like it's based on our stereotypes. So we can either choose to play into it or we could choose to oppose them. But really, you stripped me of my choice by making me have to choose in the first place.
Oh, well,
that's some poetry right there.
That's why he's a lyricist. That is literally why he's a lyricist.
I mean, we've spoke about the heavy stuff. We really got into it. Kojey, we want to thank you as well for being super candid. And just, you know, sharing your experiences and your opinions so openly. We appreciate it. But, you know, why not go on to some positive stuff? So this segment, Piece of Positivity, is really just about us speaking about something that's uplifted us throughout this week or something that makes us feel good in a world of negativity. And madness.
So for me, I think this week the positivity bit would probably be having more candid conversations and dialogue with non-minorities. But, you know, because I hadn't had that last week. I think obviously when Jess was on, I was saying the opposite. Whereas like this week has been a lot more kind of conversations happening, but with people actually who I don't really know versus people that are close to me. So that's actually been quite refreshing to kind of hear their standpoint. And also like, just supposed to saying like, just uplifting me and kind of like giving me a bit more kind of like self-assurance, self-worth. Like I have a ton of that anyway, but they were like chucking it on me more so. But it didn't feel like it was like gaslighting. It wasn't like they were just gassing me or whatever. It felt really genuine, and I kind of feel like I've kind of gained allies this week that I didn't have last week. So that's been my piece of positivity. What about you, Kojey?
This week, I had a falling out with somebody close to me. And as a result of that falling out, I came and I was on a tirade and I was just onto everyone. And I had a really annoyingly insightful chat with my sister in which she told me, in amongst her like yelling at me, but I was yelling back, it was a back and forth, that unless somebody tells me what I say is right, I'm going to see it as wrong. And I was like, But it was one of them lingering things from the conversation. So I heard it, and then I quickly went on to resolve all the passes that was going on, which was fine. But as a result of that sentence, it allowed me to go on and resolve other passes that I realized were about the same thing. Someone just not telling me I was right in the moment, and me seeing as what they were saying was wrong. And I feel like, on a greater sense, it's like, it's the same thing with the conversation around race, same thing with the conversation around black women, same thing with the conversation around sexual engagement, same thing with the conversation around everything. At a certain point in my life, I thought I was right completely, and someone informed me I was wrong, and I didn't agree with them. And hindsight is a really powerful thing, and I think what we're seeing at the moment in the world is this kind of like explosion of hindsight. People looking back and going, certain things aren't okay.
I just want to say I really appreciate that. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier about self-awareness. It's so important to just be self-aware. And sometimes we don't like it. We don't want to hear it. But in the end, like, it really is a positive thing. So yeah, I'm with you on that. For me, I have two positive things. First of all, it's definitely the weather. Because I don't know if you guys can see, I got a bit of a tan here, okay?
Little bit.
In past episodes, Kojey, I've expressed like the things that I've been through and the annoyance of being the lightest person in my family, right? So when I see a bit of sun and I get a bit of tan, then
you run for it.
Trust.
It's because you're further away from your root energy provider.
It's true, because as soon as I get in the sun, hey,
it just catch it.
It's coming out. If I lived in Ghana right now, I would be
different.
Oh, you'd be like me.
Different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When times get hard and I'm overthinking and I'm stressing out and I feel like I'm not good enough and not worthy, you got to take it back to the present. And it's really helped me and uplifted me. And it inspires me as well. I find that when I come out of a meditation or when I've been doing it for like 2-3 days in a row, I'm super inspired and I've got loads of energy as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say to anyone that's struggling right now. Try to find your center and try and be in the present moment. Don't worry about the future or obsess over the past. Just be present, baby.
Present, baby. Well, in terms of present, next up we have our favorite segment, which is CAC, aka Cuss-A-Crep, where we basically, Joelah and I pick every week crepes that we don't rate for whatever reason, and in this case get our guest Kojey to say whether he'll rock it or drop it. So we're gonna
let's go.
I know that you went to the London College of Fashion.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. It makes sense now when I see, you know, what you wear and how you present yourself and all of that. Yeah. But I just would have never thought. So big up you.
Yeah, it's a big part of the reason why a vast majority of the clothes people see me wear in my music videos are either black-owned businesses or graduate collections.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'll get collections fresh off like graduate one ways.
Yeah,
and rock it like and go crazy.
Yeah, we respect it. We respect it.
Right,
Well, let's-
Shout out Natalie Rowe, my stylist as well.
shout out Nat. Shout out Nat.
That's pretty good.
Right. Let's go Joella's. Well, insane. I love these, but I'll let Joelah intro them.
So these are the Roadman classics. Whenever he was told that he needs to wear shoes, this is what the Roadman will put on. These ugly flipping Pradas. I hate them
Not
so
ugly.
much. They look like school shoes, but not the nice ones.
Oh.
And they're just very offensive to my eyes. And I just don't think there's any outfit that they look good in. In all honesty, yeah, Coco likes them. I did say to Coco, I feel like she can rock anything. And to be honest, I feel like I can rock anything too. So if I tried, I feel like I can make it look good. But on their own, I just don't rate them. I think they're ugly. I think they need to be banned.
Wow.
No.
No.
You know what
They're hard. Period.
you know what they look like?
Go on. Oh no, it's gonna be a diss. I can feel it.
What do you mean? It's just gonna be the truth. That's all I speak.
Listen,
They look like school shoe alternatives.
thank
Oh.
you. That's what I said. They look like school shoes.
But what's wrong
Yeah.
with that? There's nothing wrong with that. School
No.
shoes are the best years ever.
They look like. It looked like, you see how like the kids with kickers were trying to flex on the kids with wallabies. Yeah.
Because,
These are the kids that are trying to flex on the kids with kickers, but really they didn't bang.
Thank you. Just because they're Prada, that's the only reason people wear them is because they're Prada. When the
I love
Roadman-
me some Prada, but like not them.
Yeah, no, I like Prada, but
Their chunky shoe, that chunky transformer shoe.
but this technically is like the dad shoe before the dad shoe was even like a staple piece in the wardrobe. This was doing
Your dad
like.
wore them. Your dad wore them.
Listen,
it's
my
like the
dad.
dad's brother's shoe.
Yeah, it's the Elizabeth
It's the
thing.
uncle's shoe.
Right, well, let's wait till when Coco gets a pair, and then we'll do a little outfit piece, and then we'll see whether.
Nah, man, I'm gonna ask Julie Adenuga. I will dish your crap if I think that is killing your outfit. Me and Julie have gone back and forth, yeah, with some like disrespectful comments towards each other's shoes because certain things
I can
she
believe
feels
that.
like she could try. I have to remind her, you can't try everything. You can't try cyanide more than once. You get it? Like them ones, you don't have to try that one.
My ones, for those who can see, are the new Yeezys Quantum Basketball. So they're a basketball performance model made up of like some suede overlays and reflective detailing and translucent sole. Me, don't rate them. They're fugly as fuck.
Don't
Really.
rate them.
I'm torn.
Nah. It looks like Alien versus Predator. Like it looks like
Good
you
movie.
could crush a whole city under your feet with them. Like they look mad. They look like some Transformers thing.
I feel like with them, yeah, I like them visually. The problem is, I know they're Yeezys, and Yeezys have been by far some of the worst constructed shoes I've ever worn in my life. And I've tried, and I kept thinking, yeah, I'm gonna keep believing in Ye and getting more. And every time, I've just regretted it. So I know putting them on wouldn't be as nice as looking at them. So I would get them and put them in a little jar.
A little case, a little glass case.
Little jar.
I feel like the early Yeezys were all right. Like the early 350s, I feel like they're super comfortable. I'm not mad at them at all.
Yeah,
I think Yeezy started just releasing bare colors.
Yeah, mass release.
Yeah, like where it was just like, okay, you're just doing this to
Plus,
just do it. Yeah.
I don't hear no customer complaints from people with small feet. I don't want to hear it.
It might be different. I
That's
only
right.
wear a size 4.5, so fair enough. But those, do you know what I don't like about these is that top ankle bit is just the solid black on it is just too much. I really wish that they broke it up with like some more color.
Yeah, look, this is what I'm saying. Like, my sock is probably dirty, but don't watch that. You see this slender physique to this ankle region?
Streamline.
To this ankle region. You see that, yeah? Just
It's
Lift it up. It's nice. It just shows off the. You get it.
oh wow.
Show
Wow.
us the ankle, honey.
There you go.
Well, Yeah, for me, these are just not the one. I don't mind the upper, like I don't mind kind of like the texture and the soul, but it's the back unit, the heel unit, that half like silver, half black, kind of like futuristic feel. It's a no from me.
So I think out of our choices, you hate my choice the most, right?
What, you picked the Pradas?
I picked the Pradas.
Oh yeah, no, they're terrible.
Yeah, so I won this round again.
Yeah.
Oh,
If we're going for the worst crap,
okay.
then yeah, the Pradas are trash.
All right. I think it's 2-0 at this point.
Yeah, I'm winning this. I just picked the ugliest trainers. I got great taste in ugly trainers.
Well, right. Next up, people, the last segment is probably second favorite is shout outs of the week. So it's the segment where we obviously give credit and big up and show love to people doing bits in the community and out there in the big wide world that we want to kind of get you guys a bit more kind of accustomed to.
First off, it has to be Michaela Cole.
Oh,
yeah. Were you gonna?
She's like, damn it.
I got mad love for her. I think she's such an inspiration. She's a great writer, great actor. I'm actually in the middle of watching her very triggering series on BBC called I May Destroy You, and it's all to do with the topic of consent, which is actually super fitting to what we're talking about today. I just rate her on so many different levels. And then the second person I have is a writer and astrologer that I came across on Instagram not that long ago. Her name's Aya Samadhi. And I have been getting into astrology a bit more recently, I guess with all the time that we have. I hate when people cuss it and they're like, we're not all the same because we're all Virgos or we're all Scorpios or whatever. There's a science to this thing. You know, it's the study of planetary alignment. It's like real stuff. And if you believe in energy, then, which is a thing.
You're a big energy believer.
Then astrology is something that you should look into. It's not just about your sun sign. It's about what time you were born, where you were born, and that makes up, you.
What's that handle if anyone wants to follow and show love?
Yeah, it is Aya Samadhi, AAYA SAMADHI.
There you go.
Have a little look, see.
Big up Shay Universe. I love Shay Universe. I've been working with her for quite a while now. I think probably like easily 3-4 years, maybe. It probably goes back now. I don't know. But the whole time I've known her, she's always been like the most genuine person that I can probably account for. And she's worked incredibly hard. And if there's anybody that I've seen go through it all behind the scenes, like all of it, everything you can imagine, and that's her story to tell for television. It's her, and she's handled it all in her grace. And I feel like now is when she's starting to get that love that she's put into the world back. And it's lovely to see. So, Shay Universe, love, respect to it.
So, for those who don't know, what does she do?
Shay Universe is a singer-songwriter from the UK. And I mention her specifically because I'm a big fan of music, obviously. But in particular, I'm a big fan of R&B. I feel like R&B is slightly like the best. One of the top two black genres. Yeah. Specifically black genres. But in the UK, I feel like we have so many shining stars that go underappreciated, especially in R&B, especially black women. Like, it's crazy how much influence they can have over their own genre, but in terms of receiving their love for it, it's limited to like a 16-bar chorus somewhere. We're supposed to applaud for that. I think it's deeper than that. But I feel like Shay represents a lot for a lot of people. And I feel like she's a great example for people to kind of watch and listen to in terms of, again, persevering through everything that this industry could throw at her.
Well, I'm going to check her out for sure. Definitely. So mine isn't like individual per se. It's more of a community. So it'd be the LGBTQIA+ community. and their hard work and efforts getting the respect, support, equality and love that they wholeheartedly deserve from not only their white counterparts, but also from us within the POC community as well. I just think, yeah, like what they're doing is amazing. And I think obviously we need to, as a society as a whole, be more educated about it. And I really think they're doing their due diligence, educating us all and helping us understand, you know, their hardships and what we can do more to be an advocate. But a specific shout out would be to Miss Jason's Closet, who at the moment is doing an amazing kind of like charitable donation via his Depop, where celebs and, you know, other kind of, I suppose, elite people in the industry are donating clothes and accessories to a charity to help people, Black people within the spectrum LGBTQ+I community. So shout outs to him and to all the to the whole collective as a whole.
Nice.
Really?
Well, thank you for that, Coco, and thank you, Kojey, for your shout out, and also for joining us today. Honestly, I'm so happy to have you on the show. It's been amazing.
Our first male guest.
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
no.
Oh, thank you. Honestly.
You set the bar very high, so
That's real scary.
You didn't even know that before, did you? That you would have.
No. I just Joe asked me to do something. I was like, yeah, man.
Just led you in.
And to everyone that's watching or listening on Spotify, thank you again for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this very special episode. Don't forget to follow us all, Kojey Radical on Kojey Radical, Coco Mell on Coco_Mell with 2 L's, and Joelah Noble. I can't remember to spell it out.
Grace.
Yeah, that's just that way it is. And Soul Intent Podcast on Instagram.
And Spotify and Google Podcasts as well.
And whatever Apple's one is.
Yeah, Apple Podcast, same handle.
Yeah.
Same way. Right, people, thank you very much. Catch us next week for more of these For Us By Us episodes of Soul Intent Podcast. Stay safe, stay sane. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Peace out.
Thanks, Kojey.